Feels good, doesn't it, huh?
All right, well, I'm off to the office.
To start off, are there any of you that have any particular problems you'd like to tell me about? Don't be bashful, you're among friends.
Letting me. This is learning how to come and settle in with you.
A lot of times, rather than helping people with horse problems, I'm helping horses with people problems.
And for a lot of people, they want it all to be fuzzy and warm and cosmic, but it's no different with a horse than with a kid. You can't always be the kid's best friend. First, you have to be the parent. A horse like this is any different than a kid that takes everybody's milk money on the way to school, beats up old people. Maybe it's the kid's fault. Maybe the parent ought to be in jail.
Boy, do you feel like a fool and kind of like a failure, you know?
It's all right. People bring a lot of baggage to the table when they come to these. Sometimes they're here for a different reason other than just getting where they can ride their horse a little bit better.
If you find a way to fit this thing right here, it'll make you better. It'll make you better in areas that you didn't think related to horses. Good job, buddy.
Horses are my life, and because of some of the things I'd been through as a kid, I found some safety and some companionship in the horses, and I was just looking for a kind of a peaceful place to be where I wasn't threatened, where my life wasn't threatened. So I have an empathy for horses that when something is scared for their life, I understand that.
He's a pretty nice horse, 6 years old, and making some good progress anyway. Just a youngster. Just telling him I want him to be aware of me. If I slow down, I want him to slow down. See, if I go like this, I have to practice my old man walk, so when I'm really old, it might take me an hour to get over there. He ought to be able to just go with me as slow as I want to go and not crowd me. Might be a little slower than what he'd like to go. If I stop, he ought to stop. If I go back, he ought to go back. And I ought not to have to beg him. Right now, I walk at a little faster pace, but I'm always testing him to see if he's with me.
When I first seen him, I thought, what kind of voodoo stuff is this? You know, how are you getting this done, you know? And he walks into a round pen, in 5 minutes, he's got a horse following him around like a dog.
He and I go together.
Most of us have a bag of tricks, and Buck has an arsenal.
Hey, boys.
Morning.
Hello, how you doing?
Good.
Good. Colt starting is always interesting because most of the youngsters never been saddled, never had anyone on their back or a bit in their mouth. So there's a lot of fear in both the horse and the human. The way I do these colt classes, you guys, you'll have to get them exposed to a lot of things that seem perfectly normal to you, but it doesn't seem normal to the horse. You walk up to them smelling like a Big Mac, you know, or something. Your diet is going to make you smell different to the horse. And then you're going to tell the horse, don't worry, I want to crawl on you. In a similar posture to how a lion would attack and kill a horse. They jump right up in the middle of them and they reach their front claws around. And as they're biting down on their spine, they're cutting their throat with their claws. You're asking the horse to let you be in that posture and crawl on him. And then about the time he says, all right, maybe. And then you say, oh, one more thing. I want to strap some hides of other dead animals around you before I crawl on you. Damn sure have to have some trust. He's got to believe in you to let you do that. And amazingly enough, they'll let you do it. Now the first thing that I'm gonna show you is leading the horse by. Step in here, send the front over like that, then he'll go on forward around me. This takes some practice to get good at. Your horse might be afraid to move. It's a real trust thing between the two of you. What's your name here? Martha? Okay, Martha. You want to go the other way. You got your horse leading by good, just the wrong direction. That's all right. Tap her. Don't be afraid of tapping her with that flag. You aren't going to hurt her. It'd be like you getting spanked with a sock. There. Yeah. Dave, lead with the right hand. Yeah, it's in your left hand. The other left. Walk to the hip. No. Walk to the hip. You're at the head. That's the eating end. This is always a hard one for folks. And that walking on you. Now your horse is kind of naughty. You guys make a big old circle around me. This horse, it knows to get away, because she's pretty fearful. Oh, you won't get away. She said, I thought I had the angle on you there. See that head slinging to the outside? That's unacceptable. But she doesn't know the difference. She said, well, up to this point, I've had some pretty damn good luck with that technique. See there, where she went to run me over? I mean, she's trying to protect herself. But when I get done, I will not have to close my hand on the end of this rope. Now, I'd touch her here on the neck. I'd say, you find out this flag won't hurt you. Nobody's here to hurt you.
One of the things that really struck me was that you always grow up hearing about breaking horses or breaking broncos or something. There's a whole element of abuse, really. It's man is stronger than this big animal. We can break them down, almost like parasailing and a drill instructor. And I think it first clicked for me with Buck at the whole concept of starting.
My early exposure to horses was severe, tying horses to posts with an inner tube tire so that when the horse pulled back, they would slam back into the post. It was really brutal, really, truly brutal. It was heartbreaking. I didn't know any different. I was a child, but I remember crying a lot. I felt very, very bad for the animals. So when I met Buck, I was the instant convert.
You can't be a good guy when you leave the barn and a bad guy when you get to the barn. And if I treat animals this way, do I treat people that way too? We all know the answer to that.
I met Buck probably at his first clinic that he gave. If I wasn't at his first clinic, I was probably at his second.
There was a nice change.
And the first time I saw it was amazing to me. It just blew my mind. It just blew my mind that it could be done in a way that the horse would cooperate like the people and not be scarred up and afraid for life. Yeah. I couldn't believe what that man could do with a horse without anything on it. I mean, he could load horses in a horse trailer without touching them. I mean, a horse has never been in a trailer. That's phenomenal. Why let an animal live in fear? Why not fix it?
That's pretty good. You notice how I don't have to have a death grip on the doggone lead rope now.
In this particular discipline, if you want to be great,
Thank you.
you have to be a sensitive person. That vulnerability, that sensitivity to feel the subtle change is what makes you great. That's why so many of the folks that are really good at this are, sometimes they're tortured souls,
I've seen some kind of dark things
in my life.
but everybody has a bit of a burden to bear of some sort, so it's all relative.
It's all I ever wanted to be was a cowboy. I grew up as a trick roper. That wasn't necessarily by choice, but the first thing is we were entertainers, my brother and I started doing rope tricks when I was 3 years old. You wouldn't think that a 3-year-old could be doing rope tricks, but I was doing rope tricks. I turned professional when I was 6, and as far as I know, we were still the youngest kids to ever get a PRCA card, which it was the RCA in those days, Rodeo Cowboy Association. And we went to fairs and rodeos and performed all over, but we really enjoyed the attention of the crowds. We were kind of childhood celebrities, you know. We were the Kellogg's Sugar Pops kids.
You know, fancy roping takes hard work, plenty of sleep, and good nutrition every day. Here's a good hard-working breakfast.
Oh, it must have been 1970, 71, right around in there. It was just before my mom passed away. Yeah, it was quite a thing. And all I remember about that commercial, it should have been real fun because it was a big thrill to all the kids in school that we were on national television doing these TV commercials. All I really remember about that is that my dad beat us unmercifully for not putting on a perfect performance. And then he drove us home, and heck, he couldn't even wait till we got home. He'd stopped and knocked on us a little bit more.
I remember my mom would drop us off at school. The last couple of years she was alive, she was working as a waitress in Ennis, Montana. And I would beg her not to leave. And every day I would cry, every day she would cry, because I was just terrified of the fact that I was going to be 5 or 6 hours alone with our dad when we got home from school before my mom would get home, because things always went better when she was around. But then when my mom died, I knew my life was over as I knew it, and I no longer had my protector. Well, after my mom passed away, my dad really fell apart, and night after night after night, he would come yank us out of the bed in the middle of the night and make us sit at this kitchen table, this oak table. I could draw the grain in that table for you to this day, because you'd just stare down at the table, because even to just look at my dad when he was ranting and raving and in a drunken stupor, he would take that as an aggressive expression. And one night I just said, I'm not going to get beat up again tonight. I can't do it. And I made a mad dash outside, and not thinking about the fact that I wasn't very well dressed for being outside in the middle of the winter, because this cold is somewhere between 10 and 20 below zero. Well, damn, then I was really stuck, because I knew if I went back inside, he was going to beat me half to death, and I just couldn't go back in. I just couldn't. We had a dog, and his name was Duke, and I loved that dog. It sounds real trailer park, I know, but he lived in a 55-gallon barrel with straw in it for his bed, and I crawled in that 55-gallon barrel with that bloodhound. It wasn't warm, but it kept me from freezing, and I finally, after 2-3 hours, went back in the house, and he just looked at me like, where you been? Riata, I can't believe you answered your phone. Where are you? Oh, cool. What are you doing? For your mom or for school? All right, well, I'll call her back, and then I'll talk to you tomorrow, huh? Okay, love you, buddy. Bye. I was watching Oprah. I don't know if I should admit to that, but I was watching Oprah, and she said that the greatest aphrodisiac there was for a man was to have a vacuum and to actually run it in the presence of his wife. So she knows quite a bit. So I thought, well, it can't hurt.
You know, you never know where you're going to get some information. Hey, you. Kind of put the smaller one in the back. There's not quite as much room.
We got 27 years in now. Yeah, 27 years.
I get to where I don't even worry about what day it is. All I know is it's just all in 4-day intervals for me.
I don't know, you get in a rhythm of doing this, and after just a few days of being somewhere, you're kind of ready to go to the next one.
Hey, Mary, it's just me.
Good, what are you doing?
Got the clinic done here. Yep, didn't make anybody cry. Talk to you later on. All right, Mary, I miss you. I do this 40 weeks out of the year. For the rest of the year, you could say, where are you going to be on such and such a day? And I can tell you exactly where I'm going to be till about Thanksgiving. Walkertown, North Carolina. Huntsville, Alabama. Limerick, Maine. Bay Harbor, Michigan. Cedar Rapids, Iowa. Longmont, Colorado. Thermopolis, Wyoming. Bend, Oregon. Bozeman, Montana. Libby, Montana.
Yeah, there's some loneliness.
You know, it's truck stops and driving late at night, just trying to get to your next spot, and you're alone. You know, that's when you really miss your family, and you want to be home, and you think of what it'd be like just walking barefoot across the living room and going to bed. But there's no way that's ever going to be anything other than what it is.
Hey, how are you?
She's going to make me a Manhattan.
And I can make more than one if somebody wants one. They're in the back.
Were you at that clinic in Ellensburg when it was so cold, when Bob Blackwell and...
Yeah, that was 17 years ago.
That was my first clinic with you.
And they brought them in, these horses in stock trailers, literally.
Whoa.
And opened up the door and they went into the round pen, and there was 15 or 17 colts. And he roped every one of them. A mutual friend invited me, and I was pretty skeptical about the clinic and the approach, and I went pretty convinced that I wasn't going to appreciate anything that I saw. And then he started working with all these babies. And I was blown away. I mean, I couldn't believe what I saw and the rapport that he had with them. You know, it just kind of stopped me in my tracks. My whole life has been encompassed around Arabian and half-Arabian show horses from the time I was a little girl. I was showing horses and thinking that everything was cool, the way I was doing things and the way I saw things being done. And I'm proud of a lot of those prizes that I won, but I'm equally ashamed of a lot of them too. Horses are put into forced positions that they're neither mentally or physically prepared to handle. And these practices aren't used nearly as much now as they were years ago, but the horses would be put into hock cobbles that would go from the hocks up through the snaffle and back down, so that every time he took a step with his hocks, you know, it'd take a hold of his face to teach him to stay into that real and fixed position. But there's no connection for the horse. There's no understanding of that, except for it hurts. So they're going to stay away from those pressures and learn to infix themselves into those positions because through intimidation. I just thought that that's the way you did it. And that's what the horses had to do to be show horses. And you don't realize how unjust it is until someone shows you a different path.
Come on. Let's say the horse needed you to be firm. There's a difference between firm and hard. Let's say I needed to take a hold of the horse with 20 pounds. The way I go about getting to 20 pounds is going to have a lot to do with whether you're successful or not. Hold on to that. I'm going to pull on you some, so don't let me get it away from you. Okay, so close your hand on that or it's going to come away from you. And don't give to me. Let's say I needed to pull on this horse about that hard. The way I took a hold of you wasn't really offensive, wouldn't make you afraid. But let's say I was abrupt and had hands like a butcher, and I took a hold of the horse like that. Now I'm pulling about like what I said, but it's how I got there. Be ready. It's how I got there that could be rude to the horse. Now watch Robert closely. I'm just riding with bad hands. Oh, you braced. I didn't hit you. Why'd you do that? He's protecting himself. Once I've done this a few times with him, he'll brace all the time. Like that, see him brace? You can't help yourself. And I'm even telling you you're going to do it, and you still can't help it. But if I took a hold like this, you might give to me, and then I'd give to you. But it's the way I go about it. And whenever you're ready, maybe you'd give to me. See? Otherwise, I'll just wait here. Nobody's going to get any lunch today. When you started to soften, so did I. And you both feel together. If you were real sensitive to me, when I feel of you here, you'd already be given. See? That means something to my horse. That's what a soft feel, that's what I do to get a soft feel right there. And I want you to get at least a mental picture of what a horse operating on a feel is. Where hopefully it looks good to you, that you'll want that you'll strive for that. So this is one example of a feel. See? I could even take on this rope right here like this. See? That's operating on a feel. See? I could do this and say get back. See? And I could do this and say get over. Without touching him. Your energy moves the horse. Most people think of a feel as when you touch something or someone and what it feels like to your fingers, but a feel can have 1,000 different definitions. Sometimes feel is a mental thing. Sometimes feel can happen clear across the arena. That's what I'm looking for there. Sort of an invitation from the horse to come to you. It's not always physical. Sometimes it's mental. When you have the physical working for you when you're younger, you ride with 90% physical and 10% mental. But if you could learn how to use 90% mental and 10% physical, you'd be better off. I'm looking for the horse to learn how to follow a feel. It's supposed to take that much. A little bit more. There. Left, right, left, right, left, right. Everything's a dance. Everything you do with a horse, it's a dance. Now I'll open him up a little bit here. Problem is, when a lot of folks can't get a horse to operate on a feel, they'll get a little more bridle, get a little more shank on it, and drive a spur through the horse's shoulder, then tie his head down, then get a bicycle chain over his nose. I mean, it doesn't stop. It becomes medieval. Now, I'm going to tip the life up in him here. We're moving on a feel. You know, a horse is pretty sensitive. A horse can feel a mosquito land on their butt in a windstorm. Every movement you make on a horse, there is a perfect position of balance that takes no energy from the horse. He doesn't feel like he's pushing you along with him or dragging you along with him.
He's built to fit a horse, you know. God had him in mind when he made a cowboy, you know. I've never actually seen him whisper at a horse, but I guess if there's a horse whisperer out there, it's Buck Brannaman. I don't know, you know.
Originally, I got connected to the horse whisperer through Nick Evans. And he said, I'm researching some characters for my book and trying to find a way to bring this character to life. And I was doing a clinic in California, and kind of a hippie-looking guy came up and he said, I'm a movie producer. He said, I was wondering if you could meet with me and Bob. I said, Bob?
In my business, artificiality is part of the business. You look for authentic people. And so when I met Buck, my first thought was, well, what the hell is this? Guy walks into an office in Santa Monica, he's got a big hat on, he's got his vest and so forth. He looks like he's got a costume on. I thought, oh my God, you know, what's... And his compatriot was with him in the same outfit. And I thought, oh, geez, what have I gotten into here? And then the etiquette, the politeness, the humanity that kind of came off real quick kind of erased that. And then we sat in the office for about an hour and a half and talked about things that were authentic. And so I realized that I was really dealing with what I would call the real deal. No nonsense guy, no nonsense, you know, whether with the animal or people. He was an advisor that I brought on that slowly worked his way into the core of the filmmaking because he just knew more. So Buck contributed everything as a model and also as a player. I used him as a double. So he was a huge part of the fabric of the film. And he was able to do things that the hired trainer could not do.
And there was a scene that Scarlett was supposed to go into the stall with the horse, and it was her first time being near the horse since the accident. And the action for the horse was he was supposed to sort of paw the ground and show a little aggression, and then come to her and respond to her and more or less put his head in her arms, and it was a real touching scene. And they couldn't get the shot because the horse was a trick horse, and they are trained to not take their eyes off the trainer.
The horse nuzzled the wood, the horse nuzzled the frame, the horse nuzzled the boots of the trainer, but wouldn't nuzzle Scarlett. And the meter was ticking, and you know, time is money and all that stuff. So I was going into a panic.
They said, what are we going to do? I said, what do you mean, what are you going to do? He said, well, we never got that shot. I said, yeah, we sure spent a long time at it, too. He said, yeah, 8 hours. You got any ideas? I said, yeah, why don't we use my horse, Pet? And at first, everybody said, well, you know, you don't understand, Buck. You know, we use Hollywood trick horses for this because they're performers and they can do things on the mark, so we can pull a focus on a certain place, and you just don't understand that. We don't, not downplaying your thing, Buck, but it's like, but Pet, he doesn't know how to work on a mark. He's not an actor. I said, no, he's a horse. I said, what do you have to lose? So I dinked around with my horse and got him where I could lead him by a front foot with a rope on him, and I got him where I could jiggle that rope and he'd paw the ground on the mark. So he came up and he just put his head right in her chest, and she wrapped her arms around that horse, laid her head on his forehead, and everybody was crying.
God, within 15, 20 minutes it was done. So Buck played a greater role than a lot of people realize. He contributed everything. There was a humanity and a kind of gentleness of spirit that I adopted for that character because of Buck.
When I saw the finished product, he looked good. I told him, there is some potential there, Bob, if this movie thing doesn't work out for you. I think I could probably get you to where you can make a living doing this.
For this one, you want me to take right here? Yeah. Okay, Riata. I might have you check on Charo and see if he's eating.
Okay. I've been traveling with Dad during the summers, usually from the end of June till end of August. It's been 2 months since I've seen my dad. My dad's on the road 9 months out of the year, and it's tough, but I'm kind of used to it now. I mean, I've been doing it since I was, well, forever, so.
We got a few sacks of feed to schlep across here. Riata, you and Nevada need to go wrap up all the sound.
Yeah, Nevada's going with me, my partner in crime.
And I just started traveling with him last year. I spent a month with him. I think we're helpful to a point. Sometimes maybe we're in the way because he has like a way of doing things, you know?
What are you doing?
Bringing you breakfast.
What is it?
Sticky buns.
I might just have one. I don't want the... That'll do me. Thanks, mate. So I guess you got a lot of songs transferred for me on my iPod.
Traveling with Dad, it can get pretty stressful sometimes just because he is like the travel Nazi.
Make sure you plug that little deal. Give me
Because
that.
he has his own way of how he does everything, and we kind of mess up the process sometimes.
Oh, Brianna. Oh, you put the top on backwards.
But then when it comes to like cleaning pens and saddling his horses and stuff like that, I think he kind of appreciates us.
How'd we do?
Nasty.
Hey, Brianna.
Yeah.
Bring me back a sack for trash after you feed.
Sure. I ride every summer. I usually take one of my horses.
Step up in here and get a dally on and stop my horse.
I learn a lot on it. Every clinic that we go to during the summer is different. The horses are different people.
There, you followed my feel. The horse world can be pretty cliquey. Well, we don't go for clicks around here.
There are probably some people here that it's just pittance, pocket change for them to come. And some of them save all year long just to be able to go to this clinic.
Put on my Madonna microphone. How we fixed here, Maggie? You getting his chin down a little bit? You want to release as quick as you can. He's gonna give in a second. There, pet him. That's the way. My daughter, she had a hard time releasing. I'd say, Riata, your arms, and she don't go like that. Spread your hands a little more. Get them a little lower. There you go. Nice. You want that horse to be an extension of you, but then you don't control your legs. You think you're just going to control this part of the body. This is a body. The whole thing's a body. If all of you didn't have a horse here, and I was trying to talk to you, wouldn't that be weird if you said, hey, I don't have control of my legs? All of a sudden, they just tear off and you're like, oh, geez, sorry. Waiting on the coffee.
He's gotta have his coffee.
Black, I'm sure that comes as a big surprise.
You have the coffee, and then he lets down, and it kind of smooths out.
Going to Sheridan, Montana.
Sheridan, Montana. There, and we're up here. Probably 7 hours. Not too long.
Yeah, it's a great bunch of folks at this clinic.
Good to see you. Yeah. Welcome to Montana.
A lot of them I've known since I was a kid. Some of them I went to school with. Some of them I went to school with their parents. And it's like, it's coming home for me here.
It's gonna be a busy week because Mom's just gonna be in the Sheridan.
Hi. I'm good.
How are you?
I haven't seen Mary for a couple of months.
Hi, Dally. Hi, buddy.
So it's been an awful long run. Mary, she doesn't like to travel as much, but I'd sure like her to go with me a little bit more, and she may go with me a little bit more once Riata goes off to college.
So this is Twyla, Rudy, this is Dally. Oh, Dally.
Hey, Rudy.
Rudy's grown a little bit since I left. I don't know how many dogs you need before you have enough dogs.
They worked their way up the food chain past me. But my wife loves them, and I love my wife, so if it makes her happy, makes me happy.
I actually do like traveling on the road. It's fun. It's really fun. I mean, you get to meet a lot of different people and see a lot of different beautiful places, like this place is amazing. But I like staying home too, though.
Okay. Are there any of you that have any real problems with him that you'd like to kind of mention that you...
He runs me over.
He runs you over? Okay, lovely. Well, a baby like they're not trying to be pushy. They might be sort of crowding you just a little bit because they still might be scared. They kind of think that maybe if they get real close to you, they'll get some comfort.
And the big thing, you guys, is don't be overly critical of them, because they're just babies. If he feels like you're angry at him at all, he will shut down.
I don't know where Buck draws his real personal strength from, because he's lived through a lot. I mean, he came out of such dire straits and, was virtually, I think, plucked from his home in the middle of the night, sort of a thing.
It's a real hard story to tell, because, you see him now, and I don't even think about that. Ace was real hard on those boys. You knew there was something wrong there maybe, but you weren't for sure what. You know, he kept it hid pretty well, I guess, until the point when Coach Cleverly you know, I've seen his back. That's a hard story to think about. Bob Cleverly was a typical football coach that you loved but feared too, you know, and he'd actually made Buck shower in PE, and when he didn't want to shower, you know, and he told him to, you know, get undressed and get in the shower. And, you know, as soon as Buck started taking his shirt off, he's seen the wet marks, and the thing of it is, you know, he just basically told him, he said, your dad will never beat you again. I'll make sure of that, you know. And then that's when Johnny France kind of started the ball rolling to get Buck and Smokey to a safe place.
I was present when the boys were forced to disrobe, and on their legs and their little buttocks were these big foot marks where their dad had beat them. When I looked at these little boys, I said, no, we'll have none of that. I took them to the Shirleys.
They were two frightened little boys, but it wasn't too long before the two boys they just turned into Shirleys.
My mom had just died.
And she was very loving, wasn't she?
Yeah.
She was a very loving lady.
So she became my new mom, and boy, it was something I really needed.
Sleep good?
They have a wonderful relationship, and she's a guiding force.
And God bless and watch over you.
There's no sense that, okay, you're raised, you're gone. I mean, she's their mother. She's truly their mother. And I think Betsy raised something like 23 foster sons. I mean, all boys. All boys.
When our kids were little, it was like a zoo, and it was every man for himself and survival of the fittest. My motto that stood me in good stead is, blessed are the flexible, for they shall not get bent out of shape.
My foster dad taught me how to shoe horses. I was 12 years old. When I first went to live with him, he told me, kid, you might not ever amount to much, but you better learn how to ride a colt and shoe a horse. And then you'll always be able to eat. Even if you can't get much of a job, you'll always be able to eat. So he taught me how to shoe a horse over a period of time. There were so many things that I learned while I was with my foster parents. When I first got dropped off at the Shirley Ranch, I was so terrified of men. And my foster dad-to-be, he pulled in the truck, and gee, he was tall, 6'4", just looked like he was made out of rawhide and barbed wire. But he walked right up to me and he said, "You must be Buck." And I shook his hand, but I couldn't even speak. It's real. You can be so scared that you can't say anything. No words come out. I just sat there. And my little knees were just about knocking together. I was a little guy. And then he spun around, walked back to the truck and opened the door. And my heart just stopped. Because it's almost like a colt that's had some trouble. You don't have to do too much to make them suspicious. Just even move in a little bit of a way that they don't understand or can't comprehend. And that quick, they think they need to save themselves. So when he went back to that truck and opened the door, I didn't know what to do. Scared me to death. He came back and he threw me a pair of buckskin gloves.
He said, here, he said, you're gonna need them. And gee, they were just beautiful and they fit me perfect. And I was so proud of them. And he looked over at the ranch truck and he said, get in. So we got in, and he always had fencing tools in the truck. So we took off and we built fence all afternoon, pounding steel posts in the rocks and pulling wire. But I wouldn't wear those gloves. There was just that token act of kindness, just giving me something like that. Oh, gee, it meant so much. I didn't want to get them all tore up. So I kept them in my pocket, and I just worked with the barbed wire with my bare hands. And he realized that I didn't need someone to just pity me for what I'd been through. He knew I just needed something to do. I needed a job to do. And that's when things started to head in the right direction for me. So I learned that about the horses. Years later, I thought, oh, yeah. That's kind of what Forrest did with me, come to think of it. Do you see the expression on that horse? It moves, but it's crabby. Flagging the tail, it's annoyed. It's like asking your kid to go take the garbage out. They take the garbage out, but they flip you the bird on the way out of the room. It's without respect. And respect isn't fear. It's acceptance.
He bucks whenever I saddle him. Not when I saddle him, but when I get him to go through transition.
I've never started a colt ever in my life. That have always been around really well broke ones. So this is my first shot at it. And he's got a little bit of buck in him. So you must be Bill. That's why I asked Bill Seaton to ride him, because Chief needs a confident rider for that first ride. I bought Chief about a year and a half ago. He was 1. He had never had any human contact. Born out in the field, wasn't touched, handled, nothing. It's just a rodeo and disaster waiting to happen.
It's not his fault. He's like a kid that just didn't have any good parenting. He just doesn't know what's to be expected of him. I want to check your horse out. If you're going to do anything shocking, I'd rather you did the shocking stuff right here than when you're on their back. Right here. Step over. See, well, I prefer you beg me. Not a chance. There's the good deal offered. There's not so good a deal. That's the thing with a horse. You can't just love on them and buy lots of carrots. Bribery doesn't work with horses. No different than trying to bribe a kid. And all it does is make a contemptuous, spoiled horse. But if you don't want them afraid of you, you can be strict, but you don't need to be unfair. And like I say, it's not personal. I don't feel any different about him than I do my own horse I just stepped off. We're not mad at you. One of the biggest challenges of a horseman is to be able to control your emotions. Because a person might be quick to get all mad. There you go. That's better. Let's go this way. I said that way.
You allow a horse to make mistakes. The horse will learn from mistakes no different than the human. But you can't get him to where he dreads making mistakes for fear of what's going to happen after he does.
Sometimes I'll just move this flag around, and I don't want him to be afraid of it. I'm saying, just live with that. See? Now we'll start again. There's a change. Attaboy.
Buck says when you start handling horses, your own personal issues start coming out. And I was so anxious to see the saddle on Chief. I rushed him to it. And now I feel like I've built this fear and this insecurity in him. But see, I'm an insecure person, so horses, they mirror you. They can't lie.
There, good boy.
Horsemanship, fine horsemanship, becomes a way of life. It's not about controlling the horses. It becomes how you treat your spouse, how you treat strangers. Will you give people a chance, just like you give the horses a chance? It becomes how you discipline your children. You know, you can discipline and discourage, or you can discipline and encourage. You can say, I see you tried that. What do you think you should try instead?
Tentative, but he tried. And I'd pet him with this. You can just leave him be for a little while, just kind of hang with him and let that soak in.
That's a more building sort of approach than that's wrong, that's wrong, that's wrong.
All right, it's time. Going out that end, go in round trail. We're gonna go for a little ride here. How you getting along, Bill?
Great.
Pretty good. Sure does, doesn't it? See if you can get on the low. Good. Well done.
Coming through.
There you go. Way to go. That should have felt pretty good to you, Phil. That kind of where you end up your ride on a horse is so important, you guys. It's a little bit like when you guys were younger and you're dating. That last 2 minutes of the date can be a real deal breaker. But with these horses, it's the same thing. You know, you gotta quit on a good note. That was a good day. All right, I'll see you guys tomorrow.
Raspberry and peach cobbler. Which would you like?
I'm for raspberry.
Okay. Oh, that one. Hey, Buck, why don't you do some rope tricks?
This is kind of a tricky one here. This is the move I used to always do for Mary when I was trying to trap her.
But he was just a very ordinary boy. Didn't show signs of early genius.
Thanks, Mom.
There was one point he thought maybe his trick roping would be his avenue to success. But when he first saw Ray Hunt doing his thing, he was so fascinated, he focused on that.
Pretty much anybody that's been involved in the horse world knows Ray Hunt. And Ray brought this style of horsemanship to the world. And Tom Dorrance is sort of the godfather of all of this.
Tom Dorrance taught Ray Hunt taught Buck Brannaman. That's kind of the lineage, as it were.
I met Ray right after I got out of high school. One of my teachers told me about this guy that could start a horse and get on him in just a few minutes and ride him around with no bridle on. And I thought, right. I'd grown up on a ranch. I was pretty punchy. Rode a lot of colts and pretty fair bronc rider for a kid. I thought, yeah, another song and dance man, some horse show dude. I had an opportunity to go get this cowboying job at a place called Madison River Cattle Company. They said, well, in order for you to get hired, you're gonna have to go talk to the manager, and he's at a Ray Hunt clinic. And I thought, oh great, here's this Ray Hunt guy again. So I go into the fairgrounds.
Sat about as far away as I could so that I could show that I was not interested in this.
Then in come Ray Hunt. I saw him do more things with a horse in a couple of minutes than I'd ever figured anybody could do with a horse.
He worked with a colt that was pretty touchy, and I'd been around enough to know what a touchy horse looked like. You could tell the horse truly understood what he was expecting of her.
He could take those feet anywhere he wanted. They were his feet. It was just an extension of him.
It was like a beautiful dance. I took right to it as soon as I saw it. I thought, I don't even know what it is, but whatever it is, I need this.
So that was the beginning for me. I went to Ray's clinics, if not every week, every other week. For the next 4 or 5 years, I was right down in the arena hanging over the round corral watching this guy. He'd lift a rein or move a foot. I might not have known all what he was doing, but I was seeing it. We got to be very close. And even though he said it wasn't that important that I pleased him or that people pleased him, I looked for his approval, you know, the same way you would a father figure. And later on, when Ray passed away, I shed way more tears for him than I ever did my dad. Now, you guys don't have to ride like Ray Hunt or Tom Doris, but that's a choice I made. First clinic I ever did, probably wasn't a real effective teacher. I was a pretty decent hand by then. I could get a little bit of stuff done with a horse. But I'm sure I just sounded like I was parroting Ray Hunt. I didn't have anything original of my own to really talk about, and I was so introverted at the time, and I felt so uncomfortable. I committed right then that I was going to do enough little local clinics to conquer that.
Buck has worked so hard to overcome his shyness. The clinics were so small. When he first started, he would offer to haul the horses for free just to get him to go to his clinic. And he couldn't have eye contact with you. I mean, he was very shy. And to see him work that hard to overcome that, and I think it amazes him to this day that people want to even listen to what he has to say.
Ray used to say that he thought horsemen were born. But an average person can be extraordinary at this. But if you don't have any guts, if you don't have any try, you'd be damn lucky to be ordinary.
You're going to find out what it's like to actually use a horse and how nice they can be when they get used. To work a horse properly on a cow, that's the coolest feeling there is.
Let the games begin.
I want you to be able to learn things and do things in real life if you were on a ranch where you had a job to do. And it's one turn and then a race. One turn and then a race. Give him a job. Figure out how to build on the horse's pride. Make him feel good about himself. And I wasn't just talking about the horse. Brianna, that's good.
Nice for that.
Mary? As long as you can stay between your cow and the herd, you're in charge.
Dang. Out. I'm out. See what happens when you're married to him?
Britt, you're out. Go move that cow.
There's really nothing more fun than chasing cows at top speed and just trying to react. That's crazy fun, but that's not really what you're supposed to do. So it's this constant battle to bring it back to some place that's controlled.
Stop. So you turn without stopping?
You know, that's the other half of why this is a really interesting thing, because it carries over into every other aspect of your life. And I think it's made me a more resourceful and balanced human being, on top of just less likely to get killed on a horse.
I love working cattle with my dressage horses. I think it's fabulous for them because dressage is a sport where there are really fine ballet-type movements that you're asking the horse to do. It gives meaning and purpose to the dressage work. And then when you take that purpose back into the dressage ring, the horse says, I'm practicing working cows, and it makes sense to the horse. And then he will do it with a greater joy because it has meaning to him. It's not simply an exercise. And I think the dressage work gives the cow horse skills that even cowboys could use.
There you go.
Horses get discouraged by riders who shut the doors, and Buck's really good at opening doors. And you get to artwork or anything else that you do, you start to look at it for the open doors, and then you learn how to walk through those.
You guys want to throw a few heel shots?
I knew that Buck was really a special guy. And because of his background, which I learned about, and the abuse that he had suffered as a kid, was even more impressive that he could come through that abuse, and rather than repeating it, that he went the other way and decided, I'm not going to have that in my life.
Bill, I'll start with you first. What's your stage name?
Smokey Branham.
Smokey Brannaman. Yep. And how about you, Dan? What's your stage name?
They call me Buckshot, and I'm 7 years old.
Well, who taught you to perform?
Our father did.
And that's Ace Brannaman, yes. Right? Yep. Did he ever do this type of thing? Did he ever do this type of thing?
The way my dad treated me when I was little, the way he approached us as kids,
we've arranged a short demonstration, right, fellas?
I wouldn't attribute any of my positive virtues to my dad in any way whatsoever. I know you're not supposed to hate anybody, but the hurt that he caused me, I never really got over it. So I live in the moment. I like to live in the moment. You worry about yesterday or last week or 20 years ago, it's not going to work out too good for you. You can't live in two places at once. No, I mean, you never forget, but you don't have to keep living in the past. I mean, there's a whole bunch of things I learned from all the dark stuff that happened to me. There's a hell of a lot of things I learned. Now, I wouldn't necessarily recommend it to anybody, but it made me what I am.
Yeah, it got a little warm there for a while today, didn't it?
Thank goodness my daughter, she's never gone through anything like that, and now she's almost grown up, so you can just saddle him inside the round curl. I think if a kid is living in an environment like I was when I was little, sometimes the way you protect yourself is you just really don't communicate with anybody, and you try your best not to be noticed. And you just sort of withdraw, and you'll see a horse sometimes that they've been mashed on by somebody into where you just look in their eyes and they look like they're dead. Yet that's the time when you try to encourage your kid to be outgoing and gregarious and be able to talk to not only other kids but adults.
And just see if you can lope him right out of his tracks. Because that's what you might have to do if you're going to jump out of your tracks on a cow or something. You know what I mean? There. He kind of got it done in spite of you, didn't he?
Dang it.
Make a cowgirl out of you, yeah.
You're only doing this so you can laugh.
Riata and I are an awful lot alike. Thank goodness she kind of has her mother's looks. Mentally, she's a lot like I am. You know, Mary will say, sometimes in frustration, she's just like you. And I think, what's the downside to that? But she may not be seeing it just that way at the time. And I look at her the way she's developed, and I think, I probably could have been that way when I was her age. That was in there all the while.
Do it again.
There. That was a little better.
Yeah, I could feel it.
Either before you get settled or when you get settled. You signed these books last year, and I need a translation in Spanish or Latin.
Latin. Solvitur in modo, firmitur in re. Gentle in what you do, firm in how you do it. Yep.
Good words.
How are you, Charlene? Nice to
Hello
see
again,
you.
it's good to see you. I wanted to tell you I was all signed up to ride with you, and a couple weeks before the clinic I found out I'm having a baby.
Well, all right. Good for you.
Always learn even when I'm watching.
Good. All right. Okay, you guys can come on over near the round corral here where you can get a good chance to see. I'll work with this one first here. Evidently he's a little naughty. I guess you can see a little disrespect there, huh? He had to come up and stick his nose right in my face. So I'll work with him, and you'll see some of the same things on all the colts, but all of them will maybe have a
Dan, this guy's a paint, and he was an orphan as a baby, and he was oxygen deprived apparently. Dan, you wanna, which way you guys wanna bring him in?
Well, I'm gonna stalk the buck to see if he wants him or not. He may want to, because that horse might hold up the whole progress of the whole class.
So wait until noon?
So he might want to wait until, when it's convenient.
Maybe at
for
lunch?
Buck, maybe even after the whole deal, I don't know.
I think we have a problem child we have to work yet. You can bring that one on in, Dan. They make it sound like they're bringing in a Siberian tiger. Was he hard to catch even in the trailer, Dan?
I could just kind of wanted to be a little aggressive in their fight, maybe.
Uh-huh.
Just a lot of threatening, you know.
How old is he?
Just 3.
Uh-huh. How much have you worked with him?
His mom died at birth and I pulled him and blew him back to life. And at 3.5 months, I got my back broken in 2 places. So he has not been handled.
So he was more or less raised like an orphan.
Yeah.
Those can be the worst kind. The
Right.
orphans are always the worst because they don't learn anything about respect that they would have learned from their mother or from
Right.
other horses. They don't respect anything or anybody.
You know, people thought I should put him down. They thought maybe he had some brain damage. He's extremely dangerous, and he attacks cars.
I'm sure you're anxious to get that one in here, Dan. Don't get kicked. Step in behind him there.
When he was an orphan, I didn't have a barn because my house burned down and my barn burned down, so I raised him. It was cool, so I raised him in the house. It was cold, and I bottle fed him every couple of hours, and I, how do you say, potty trained him. It started out a good relationship. It's just somebody else has to come in and help me. He's different.
And he's a stud, too?
Still a stud. I haven't had a chance to stud him yet.
Yeah, I'd do that the sooner the better. I mean, it looks to me like the last thing you need is a damn stud. If you're gonna have one, a lot of you guys, you just well get you a grizzly bear and orangutan.
I've known Buck for over 20 years, and I've seen one other horse besides Kelly, a stallion, that stands out. But I've never, ever witnessed anything quite like that dangerous and unpredictable.
Is somebody planning on trimming his feet someday?
Yeah.
Any shoers here? Come on, you cowards. You want to shoe him right now, or would you rather I got him a little better? You're a buff, okay. Because Dan's going to saddle him and ride him around here in a minute. A lot of you that don't understand much about a rope, you'll find out I can stop him. And that's going to come in handy for you, Dan. When you're on him, you're going to be real glad that I can stop him. Once you understand how much more control I have by a hind foot than I would by a halter on his head. You already know you can't control him with a halter on his head because he's been chewing on people and has already been aggressive and wanting to attack people. Yeah, I want you guys to understand, you can't hold it against him for kind of how his life has been. A little bit, he'll lead soft. Okay, Dan, you can come on in. We're just going to kind of love on him for right now. Just kind of ease up beside him, just pet him. Come on over with your blanket, and you'll just go up and rub him. Yeah, good. Good, go get your saddle. And you kind of, while his frame of mind is kind of humble like that, you can cuddle him and kind of love on him too. So just pet him on the hind leg. Just see if you can just gently pick up the hoof. That's the way. There you go. You can go around the front. Rub him on his face there when he's being a good guy. Watch him, don't block him when he wants to bite you. Block, block. That's the biggest thing, is nobody's ever blocked him.
We had to put up a sign that says attack horse because if somebody did walk into the pasture, he would have taken him out. One time, some people started teasing him, and I went up to him about 12 feet away in this golf cart, thinking that would bring him away from the fence, and instead he looked back at me, pinned his ears, ducked his head, and did that aggressive horse behavior and came right at me, going, striking, feet, everything, and he pretty much came up over the golf cart and nailed me.
Now go for a little walk with him. Now we're going to stop him. Pet him. You're the good cop there, Dan. You just love on him. Rub him down that hind leg. Looks good. Just get on him like his grandma's horse. and pick your lead rope up so it's not dragging there. So you can kind of bend him if you need to the left. Pet him. You just rub him all over like you're just totally in love. There you go. Okay, walk off again. Yeah, go ahead. Just say, come on, let's go, Yeller. There you go. Pet him when he goes. See, you gotta remember that. Now maybe we can lope him. You got an opportunity. There. Go ahead, go on. Pet him. Rub him on the back. We don't want to think every time he feels anything back there, he's just gonna get whacked. Good job. I'm gonna stop you now. Okay, you can step off him nice and clean. This isn't open for discussion. At this point, Dan is the only one permitted to lead this horse anywhere. And then later on, maybe a little short evening session, you can work him on the end of your lead rope in here, but it's just you and him by yourself.
I was really embarrassed because he said nobody should have a stud horse, and I'm thinking, God, if he only knew I had a whole pasture full at home that I have, and then he said not letting him get his head over so he can bite. Well, it's healed up pretty well, but I'm gonna have that the rest of my life. Yeah.
You know, I have thousands of horses under my belt and lots of experience.
No.
And hell, the safest place around this son of a bitch is on him.
Right.
You felt fine when you were on him. But around him on the ground, he's treacherous because of what he's, you know, gotten to be. And he could hurt Dan or me or you or anybody else just in being spoiled, and he doesn't want to be that way. But he doesn't know any other way to be. He's as close to having been turned into a predator as you're going to find. Because he's been wrecked. I'd want to give the older horses a chance to get him some manners.
He's run with some studs, and
You're
they
nuts
take
for
him.
having that many studs running together, lady. I'm telling you that. Most people don't need studs, and for God's sake, they don't need 18 of them. I don't know what you're trying to prove. And if you got a lot going on in your life, probably a lot of it's a lot bigger story than this horse. You ought to be a SEAL team member or something, as much risk as you like to take. Why don't you learn how to enjoy your life? Life's too damn short. This horse tells me quite a bit about you. So this is just an amplified situation of what is. Maybe there's some things for you to learn about you. That maybe the horses is going to be the only damn way you're going to learn it. Because you might not listen to somebody else. Well, that's all right. Sometimes I don't either, and I should. Ask my wife. I love the horses, but I have a responsibility to my fellow human too.
Right.
You know, if I think maybe you might do something to get yourself hurt and you don't even see it coming, if I see it coming, I have a moral obligation to say, you're in big trouble here. Sound fair? Okay.
He's right. I mean, he's right. He's right. And I'm not, it's not just the horse. He's just right about my life.
So Dan, if you feel safer just roping him, you can rope him. Need to get my horse kind of warmed up a little bit.
Get out. That's it. You're done. You got it? Here, Dan, hop down. Just hop down.
Well, I need to stay.
I know. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
Yeah, it's a huge
hole. You need sutures.
Here.
It's a huge hole. Here.
That's pretty bad. You always carry something with you just in case.
I'm gonna have to put him down.
You want to ride in and
No, no.
Not your chin. Hang on.
You want the chin?
Buddy? No,
Oh, look what he did to my head.
Oh, yeah. He bit you.
He bit you in the head?
Yeah.
Holy shit.
Yeah.
You mean knock me over?
Okay, go sit down in my mom's car right there.
Why?
Because I'm taking you to get stitches. It's deep. It's deep, but you can see
All
the bone
big
and the...
fuss they make about it. It's good at cleaning the clothes.
Mr. Brannaman, you need to talk a little sense into Dan, and I figure you're probably the only one that can do it.
Dang. About the third time I got that saddle blanket up over his back, boy, I didn't even see him, man. He hit me with his teeth, boy, and knocked me flat.
Get it stitched up.
Wait, what you gonna do?
We're gonna have to put him down. I won't give him off to somebody who's gonna beat him to a pulp with a 2x4. It's not something you do, and he's dangerous. I'm gonna put him down, and that's the most humane thing to do for him. Yeah.
Gail, get out of there. Dan! Yeah, do not get close to him. Get
Step back away from him.
Is Buck coming?
Yeah.
Please step back away from him.
I was backing to get the shot.
How are they going to get him in that trailer?
Come on, Cal. Come on.
Just sit still.
Come on, Cal. Come on.
Just wait.
Come on, Cal. Come on, Cal. Come on. Up.
Sit still. Just sit still. Just sit still. Just don't do anything. Okay, we'll see if you have any questions here.
At some point, would you talk to us a little bit about the colt that left yesterday?
Well, I'll talk to you right now. The colt, when it was born, was not breathing when they got to it, and they didn't know for how long. So the vet even figured that the horse had been oxygen deprived for quite a long period of time. But he still could have made it in spite of his handicap that he was born with. He could have made it. If you just would treat this as if that horse, because of the oxygen deprivation, had some sort of a learning disability. Well, number one, they should have worked with him like you might work with a disabled child and said, look, you might need a little bit extra education because of where you're coming from. So you could have taken that disabled child and turned him into something of value to himself and everyone else. And he may have ended up just a kind, nice little horse that didn't have a lot to offer mentally, but was just kind of okay with people, and he might have packed someone around. He might have been the absolute opposite of what he is. But you know damn good and well, she would go home and she would either get hurt, get killed, or someone else would get hurt that was totally innocent. The human failed that horse. The human is that X factor. That horse is a mirror. All your horses are a mirror to your soul. And sometimes you might not like what you see in the mirror. Sometimes you will.
I was watching you when you were loading that colt in there. What were you thinking when you were just being so kind and patient with that horse to get him in there instead of just, you're no good, slut the door and go?
To have contempt for the horse never would even occur to me. That's not. Maybe 30 years ago it would have. Maybe. One of the biggest challenges of a horseman is to be able to control your emotions. And it's probably more of a challenge for me. It has been, not so much now, but it has been because my dad had a violent temper. He was a terrifying person. So that kind of followed me around a little bit, thinking, am I going to be just like that old fart, No, you got a choice. You can make choices. You can't blame the whole damn thing on somebody else. And, I can't help but think that all you guys here, when you have a youngster, that you're going to be thinking, I've got some responsibility. I'm going to take care of things and try to make this as good a life for him as I can and not let things get out of hand and teach him something. I hope. So we're heading from Chico to Red Bluff to the stock horse and ranch roping contest there.
The Californios is the deal every year in Red Bluff. Buckaroo, vaquero style roping, this is it. Riata's doing the kids class. They call it the heritage class. She's really looking forward to that. And this will be her last year to do it, the kids class, then she'll be too old.
The Californios is one of the highlights of my dad's season because he's been on the road, traveling, living in his horse trailer, meeting a bunch of new people, having to memorize their names. So I think it is definitely one of his highlights.
She won this event last year. Riata ran a little, and he showed a lot of these guys how to throw that famous heel shot that he.
That's about the most fun for me, is out there roping with my daughter.
She wants to be. She emulates everything her dad does. She wants to be just like him. She's her father's daughter. We did teach her how to ride, but it was already in her. She could ride from the very beginning. I mean, the very first time I ever watched her rope, I thought, who's been teaching you?
Okay, we're good to go. Riata Brandon and her lovely assistant.
Yes, lovely assistant. The way this works is they've got 7 minutes to sing in the end.
Gee, she's a handy kid. Out ropes most men now. There'll come a time when she'll be beating me, and that'll be fine. It'll be time to turn it over to her. Then I'll just sit around in the grandstands and talk about all the stuff I used to be. But hopefully that'll be about another 30, 40 years. People say they're too old when they're like 40, and you think, shut up, too old. Bill Dorrance was roping when he was 94. That's how I want to be when I grow up, if I ever do. Well, it's always neat to see them after I've been gone for a long time, yeah. But it's always hard to leave too, you know. Then once you're around them for a few days, kind of start getting used to being around them, then you go back to your life of solitude. So I'm still on the move. I'm getting better because I'm still studying. I still want to be a better horseman. And I've learned so many things, and I thought originally I was just going to be there to figure out how to get a cult started and figure out how to be a little better cowboy. That's what I thought it was about. Come to find out, that wasn't what it was about at all. Out of a group like this, there might be some become artists, where you become creative and you use your imagination. Now that was a thing of beauty. You look like one mind and one body. If you got a taste of it, if you got a taste of what I'm talking about, you couldn't get enough of it. You'd rather do that than eat. You may spend your whole life chasing that. And that's possible. But it's a good thing to chase.
This is Buck's favorite joke. It's a pirate scene, and the guy up in the crow's nest says, "One enemy ship coming on the horizon." And the captain says, "Quick, bring me my red shirt, because if I get wounded in battle, the blood won't show, and my men will fight on." So they had the battle, and after a bit, the guy in the crow's nest says, "10 enemy ships on the horizon." And the captain says, "Quick, bring me my brown pants."
Yes, I understand that every life must end. As we sit alone, I know someday we must go on. Oh, I'm a lucky man to count on both hands the ones I love. Some folks just have one, yeah, others they got none. Stay with me, oh, let's just breathe. Practiced on my sins, never gonna let me win. Under everything, just another human being. Yeah, I don't wanna hurt. There's so much in this world to make me bleed. Stay with me, oh, all I see. Did I say that I need you? Did I say that I want you? Or if I didn't, I'm a fool, you see. No one knows this more than me. As I come clean, I wonder every day as I look upon your face. Everything you gave and nothing you would take on. Nothing you would take, everything you give. Did I say that I need you? Oh, did I say that I want you? Oh, if I didn't, I'm a fool, you see. No one knows this more than me. I come cleaner, hold me till I die, meet you on the other side.